Hello, everybody, and welcome today to the Youth Pledge for Employers Virtual Careers Fair. It's great to have Mel Bloom here from the Yeo Group, who is going to be talking to us about her role and the organisation that she works for in the hospitality sector. So, Mel, tell us a bit, first of all, about the Yeo Group and what you do.
Sure. Okay. So I work for Yeo Group, and we've got so we have three sites, all in Felixstowe. We've got the Alex, which was the original of the bunch, which is, I don't know if anyone's kind of familiar with any of these places. Hopefully you are. So we've got the Alex, which is two-story. Cafe bar and brasserie, downstairs cafe bar, really busy, buzzy, lots of different things on offer. Cocktails, tea, coffee, wine, brunch, a whole host of things. And then upstairs we've got the brasserie, which is more a la carte, table service, amazing views, not posh, not fancy, not fine dining, because that's not who we are, but just a nice place to go and spend
Oh,
a couple of hours.
brilliant.
It's nice. And then we've got Cafe Bincoto, which is in main town centre in Felixstowe, which is Mediterranean pizza, pasta. Again, a lovely place to go in just for coffee and a bit of cake, or full on three-course meal with champagne. It's lots of people use it for lots of different things, which is great. And then our final place is Viewpoint Cafe, which is down by the dock, and that is a proper English cafe. So mugs of tea, breakfast, cans of Coke, no alcohol. So it's a simple kind of site, but just incredibly busy, as you can imagine, being sort of right by the sea and these massive ships coming in. We had the
Wow.
was it the Ever Given come in
Yeah.
a little while ago, and it was carnage down there. So yeah, so that's us, and all three sites are looked after by Yeo Group admin, who are there to support and lead and what have you.
Wow, that just sounds absolutely amazing. And the diversity of that is like, as you know, as an offer in terms of like locally, must be sort of absolutely brilliant. But would you tell us a bit about your role and how you got into the industry?
Yeah, of course. So I've worked for the company now for 20 years. It was my 20-year anniversary this year.
Fantastic.
Um, I know I don't look old enough, but yes, it is
Child
Uh,
record.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I started off with the company when I was at university. I was working there and at another restaurant in Felixstowe. So I was doing kind of crazy hours in the holidays. Um, whilst at university, I was doing a law degree, which I
Wow.
absolutely loved. But towards the end of it, I was thinking, "Oh, I don't really want to be a solicitor or a barrister. It wasn't for me." So I came home, carried on working, and just absolutely just loved it. I loved the team. I loved the interaction with customers. I loved the challenges of it. Just being so busy all the time was amazing.
But it's so
Um,
diverse every day as well.
yeah, absolutely. Every day was different. So just enjoyed it. And then my parents sat me down and said, "What are you doing? You've graduated. You have a law degree. What's going on?" And I said, "Look, I just absolutely love it." So they said, "Well, just you need to do something. You need to push a bit harder." So I sat down with my boss and I said, "My parents have told me to get a proper job." Which he laughed at. Luckily,
Yeah.
he didn't take offence, and so we just had a conversation about what it was that I was looking for. So I started then to spend a bit more time in the office. I carried on working on the floor, but also supplemented with the
Right.
office and worked with the HR manager at the time, and again just absolutely loved it. So I was able to do a little bit, HR, so human resources, looking after people and what have you. So it did use a little bit of my degree, but mostly my personal kind of skill set.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the HR manager eventually left. I took on her role and just continued.
Wow. That's amazing, and what an unusual sort of entry into the business, sort of with your law degree and then deciding to stay. I think that's so interesting about your parents' reaction, like, what are you going to do, like, for your proper job? And I think sometimes it is challenging for people to understand that there's a breadth of careers available in sort of the hospitality industry. And I wondered if you'd mind just talking to us about some of the different jobs that exist within the Yeo Group.
Yeah, of course. So we've got obviously you've got your chefs and your front of house, so your waiter, waitresses, bartenders, kitchen porters. Um, and I think you're either kitchen or your front of house. I find that the two personalities, the two skill sets, quite different.
Yeah,
If I start with front of house, I think. Um, our hospitality has a questionable reputation. I think like my parents proved. It's what are you doing? That's not a job. But actually, I think it comes down to your character and your personality. And I think the front of house definitely, um, coming in as a waiter, waitress, if you have the right skill set, so you're amazing with people, you're great under pressure, you're energetic, you're positive, and all the rest of it, then there is so much room for progression. Um, I think all of our managers have started off as either behind the bar or waiting tables. Um, our front of house manager, he started with us 15 years ago, and
wow,
he was a little so and so. He was very young and going out all the time and what have you. And now he's responsible for a business that's turning over north of £1 million a year,
wow,
responsible for 40 plus staff. And he got there purely because he just worked so hard and was good at what he did. I
yeah,
can't I don't think he did well academically, but he's doing such an amazing job now. And then on the other side, so the chef side, again, so we have quite a few people that have started off as kitchen porters, so washing up.
yeah,
It's not a glam job, but by a long shot. But that's where they started, and if they show a natural kind of flair with food or a natural kind of interest, then chef will say, right, come and look at this, watch me. I don't know, not a chef, but watch me do this, make this pie or whatever. And so we like to try and train people up. Our group head chef, so he's responsible for four kitchens in total.
wow,
He started off as a trainee chef with us, gosh, 20 or so years ago. And he's had a brilliant experience, not always easy, but he did some work experience with Heston Blumenthal. He's travelled to Poland, to France. Um, he's designed kitchens,
wow.
and that really is, that's his character. That was his hard work. That was his progression. It was nothing that we taught him to do. We gave him the ability to do it. But did I answer your question at all? I feel like
Yeah,
I
you
went off
did.
on a
No,
complete
no,
tangent.
that's really helpful. Picking out these sort of front of house roles and the kitchen roles are really interesting to understand the sort of differences. But it seems to me that what they've both got in common is that work ethic and that capacity to sort of perhaps try new things and cope under pressure in terms of how people sort of what people do. And in terms of like you spoke there about your sort of like your front of house manager, it'd be useful. Could we sort of unpick some of those other jobs as well that are perhaps around that, like the management jobs and your job, like with sort of HR office perspective? It's so
Yeah.
fascinating. Sort of, it's like going behind the scenes at the museum, like being able to sort of sit here about all the different roles that exist.
So you have got quite both kitchen and front of house. You've got quite clear levels of I hate the word, but a hierarchy. So the next step from being say a waitress, for example, then the next step up would be a shift leader. So the
Right,
shift leader is responsible for essentially making sure that the shift is run well. They might be working with a duty manager, but equally they might be on their own. It might be making sure that staff get their breaks, and it's just being there to kind of sniff out any potential. You can sense when something's not going quite right,
yeah,
and so it's down to the shift leader to say, right, I'll go over and I'll see that table because I can see them looking around, or I hear some
right,
dropped cutlery, or someone's come in and they're crying, or someone's called in sick. So it's kind of dealing with those kinds of things. And then the next step up from shift leader would be a duty manager. That's when it gets a little bit more bit more serious. You've got
yeah,
keys to the building, you're
right,
locking up. You're the person that if we're lucky we don't get too many, but if you had an issue with perhaps someone who's had too much to drink, or starts to get a bit challenging, then the
Yeah.
duty manager is the one that would deal with that. And then after duty manager, then it would be the site manager, so front of house manager.
Right.
Um, and that could take, I'm trying to think how long. So yeah, the manager at the Alex, I mean, he's been with us for 15 years. The manager at Cafe Bencuto, he started off with us as a kitchen porter, I believe 6 years ago, and now he's the
Wow.
manager of, this amazing site.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
so yeah, and then
Oh,
again
that's
in
really
in the
interesting to hear that. So, oh, sorry, you were going. I bet you're going to the kitchen now, are you?
I was going to
Oh
go to
yeah.
the office
Oh yeah. Go to
next.
the office. Yeah.
So in the office, you've got myself doing the HR. Up until last year, I had an HR assistant as well.
Yeah.
So they would be doing things like they might help with the disciplinary meeting.
Right.
They might do, it's filing, admin. Obviously, we have to be very robust with our administration. Um, the HR assistant I had absolutely no experience, which was perfect because I could teach him, and he was just very good in terms of being organised, a nice person to talk to, and those were kind of the key things.
Yeah.
And then you've got the office manager who looks after all of the payrolls, all of the accounts. She's supported by an office assistant, and then we've got a marketing assistant as well who does
Right.
all of our marketing. So yeah, so that's us.
Oh my God, that's fascinating to hear about. And I know that kitchens have got sort of total hierarchies to a certain extent as well, haven't they? Like with starting off as kitchen porter, is that right? Off, people are doing the washing up, or they might. I never remember. Is it chef de partie, or is it which is the where people go? You educate me, Mel.
So okay, so you've got kitchen porter,
Yeah.
and then so if I talk about what we've got at the moment, so we've got kitchen porter, then we've got someone doing an apprenticeship, so an
Oh,
apprentice chef,
brilliant.
and then from that you'd have a commis chef,
Right.
um,
Chef.
and then a demi chef de partie, then a
Right.
chef de partie, a senior chef de partie, a
Wow.
sous chef, a head chef, and then so we call our senior guy group head chef, but that could be an exec chef, or trying to think of the other word, but yeah, so that gives you an idea of that hierarchy. So very clear. I think what's great for the kitchen is very clear progression within there.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? To be able to think, well, I'm here, but I know that the next place I could go is here. That must be really, really helpful. With thinking about kitchens, first of all, because it seems to me that actually, though you're all part of one team, the environments are quite different. And I just wondered, first of all, like, for working in a kitchen, what do you think are kind of like, what are the challenges that people sort of have to overcome or get their head around to do that? And then perhaps we could think about that in terms of front of house as well.
The challenges within the kitchen. I think for us, so we don't really take bookings. We do take some, but not a huge amount. So you can go in not knowing how many people you're going to serve that day. So
Right.
you have to be absolutely ready and on it to be to be
Yeah.
slapped.
Yeah. That
So
could be. You don't really expect many, but loads might come in. Yeah.
so you have to be incredibly organized. If you're not organized, then it's all just going to fall apart for you very quickly. So the group head chef would always describe it as the prep, the morning prep. That's your head down. That's the serious bit. That's
Right.
the, you're getting on, you're making sure that your fridges are all absolutely ready. And then he always describes the service part as the fun part, because it's almost like it's all happening now.
Yeah.
And it's amazing if you ever get the opportunity. We've got all open kitchens
Wow.
with us. It's amazing to watch. It's almost like watching a dance, how they work together and how they move.
Wow.
It's quite something.
So you
Um,
have to have those sorts of teamwork skills as well. It seems to me very much.
Absolutely. And just, yeah, being very calm under pressure, time management. I don't know how. I mean, I can't even coordinate getting Christmas dinner on the table. how they can coordinate getting, 60, 50, however many meals out to a room full of people. I don't know, but it is by its communication.
Yeah,
The junior chefs, obviously they're listening out for instruction. And it is a little bit like you see, yes chef, no chef,
yeah.
because it has to be run with almost kind of military precision.
That's really fascinating because I think what you've done there is sort of really identified some key characteristics of people that, are successful in those environments. Like you've sort of said, being organised, teamwork, time management, good communication, especially listening. Um, what about sort of from a front of house perspective? What sort of things do people what sort of characteristics do you think make a successful kind of front of house person, or what are the challenges that they might need to overcome?
I think that the key personality trait is being a just loving being around people, being social, because not everyone actually does enjoy being around people.
Yeah,
So it's just I always describe it to front of house. It's like if you remember when you're young and your parents have friends coming around for dinner, and it's always really exciting, because perhaps your mum's made this amazing or whatever, and it's just and you're at the window and you're waiting for people to arrive and what have you. That's the sense of excitement that you should be feeling when
yeah.
you're about to start service, is how exciting. I want them to have an amazing time. And you just go out of your way to make people smile and recognize that, you know what, it does sometimes go wrong. An order might be taken incorrectly, or I don't know, someone you might drop something, what have you, but it's just styling it out and just making sure that people leave happy.
Oh, that is absolutely brilliant. And I guess as well, you sort of have to be somebody who's comfortable kind of working in close proximity with other people, especially in a kitchen, because often they're not always sort of massive, are they? Sort of kitchens. And I guess as well, for a kitchen, you have to be able to sort of cope with being able to be, you probably get quite hot and it's quite busy, those sorts of things. But I'm sure the key challenge, as you've sort of picked out really across those, is that ability to work under pressure.
Absolutely, absolutely. But do you know what? From that comes this amazing camaraderie. I think those teams, they, the relationship that they have together is
Wow.
so unique. They're so close. I think lockdown was incredibly hard
Oh,
because we didn't have that interaction with each other. But just to see them all together and the joy that they have, not
that's
it's not
fantastic.
always plain sailing, but they have each other's backs. It's lovely. It's really lovely.
And like you say, that camaraderie as well, I bet that's, just it must be incredible, like after a really busy service and like feeling that you've delivered and loads of people have had a nice time and yeah, it must be absolutely brilliant in terms of what you've done. You've got something very tangible as well, haven't you, for what what you
Definitely,
produce. When
definitely.
you are when you're recruiting, Mel, with your HR hat on, what sort of things do you look for from people's applications? Because often young people, and especially now with the pandemic, might be struggling to get work experience in their chosen environments. What sort of things might you look for on people's CVs or letters? What do you look for?
It very much depends on the role, but I mean, in terms of front of house, if someone was interested in working at the Alex, for example, I wouldn't necessarily look too closely at the CV. Obviously, it's nice to get one,
Yeah.
um, but the most important thing is I always say to people, right, come in and see me for a chat. And I start it off by saying, look, this is nothing formal. I've got no dreadful questions to ask you. I just want to hear about you, and then I'll tell you about us, and then we'll go from there. And what I want to hear from them is, obviously I want them to talk. If someone is so nervous that they can't get the words out, then
Oh,
obviously that can be, that's an obstacle, that sometimes you can't get through. But generally, I just want to hear them talk passion. They could be talking about their dog, or where they went last night
yeah.
or whatever, but just a bit of personality and a bit of positivity as well. And then I talk to them about us, and I try and give a very real picture. So this is the good and this is the bad. Are you up for this? Then I get them in for a trial, and you can just tell very quickly if someone can do it, and they might not have a clue. And actually, it's better. They might not have a clue how to make a cocktail, make a coffee, use the till, or whatever. But if they're smiling at people, and if they're willing, if they're opening doors for people, then that's great.
Yeah,
That's all you're looking for. And again, so many people don't have those skills. So if you do have that, that's something to be proud of, because
yeah.
that's a definite definite skill.
And those sort of hard skills almost are kind of like the trainable things, like how to use the till, how to make a cocktail, those like those sorts of that sort of knowledge. But that's really fascinating. And then for you, I mean, sort of thinking about kind of your journey and as we kind of come to the end of this conversation, what if you could go back? We've sort of asked everybody this, Mel, but if you could go back and speak to your younger self about sort of your career journey or your career, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Okay, I would say have the thing that you just want everyone to have is that confidence in yourself. I think it's really it's really easy, sorry, to be influenced by, your parents, your friends, your peers, your teachers. And I think sometimes you just need to stop and think, what is it that I really want? And I think for me, I knew that I was very happy doing what I was doing at the Alex, waitressing,
Yeah.
being with customers and what have you. But I had, a few naysayers in my head saying, no, don't do that, do this, and what have you. So I wish I'd had a bit more confidence to recognize that I did enjoy it and I was good at it. And I'd also say, don't pluck your eyebrows so much, Mel, because
A piece of life advice.
yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
but Mel, that has just been absolutely brilliant to meet you and so informative to understand about all the different things that you can do sort of in that hospitality environment. And I really like that whole concept of actually that that you've said about your own journey, that actually it's almost, they say, don't they, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life, in that sense, that actually you chose something that was your passion, and absolutely respect you. It's been brilliant to hear you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Oh, thank you for having me.